So ladies and gentlemen, Anuschka is going to come on in just a minute here. Before that, some quick announcements. If you're watching right now, you are committed to becoming your greatest possible self. I want to serve and support you however I can. If you are a guest, that you feel like you're the caliber of guest that we attract onto the show, you want to get your message out in the world, definitely connect with me if you want some support with getting your message out individually with one-on-one coaching or launching your own podcast. Let's talk. Find me on Facebook.com/th3burns or on Instagram @IamMillionaireChris or email chris@beyourgps.com. I look forward to talking to you about you and your journey and your message. Let's make it happen, Captain. And next up is the iTunes review of the week. This week is Helped Me Shed My Layers. Chris is an inspiring breath of fresh air. This podcast will enlighten and encourage even the thickest skinned of us to shed the tough exterior and dive deeply inward. Thank you so much. I appreciate you giving us that review. Beautiful, so beautiful. Yeah, and that's what I'm all about, is just showing up as you, diving deep, remembering who you are and what you stand for. So definitely stay tuned to this show. We release a new episode on iTunes and our blog every single day. So subscribe so you can get all the latest updates and episodes. And if you want to leave us a review and get an opportunity to get shouted out on a future marathon, definitely do that. Would love to hear from you. Go to beyourgps.com/iTunes to do that and give us a review. And subscribe on whatever platform works for you. Just search Greatest Possible Self and we will pop up. So I'm going to introduce Anuschka in a minute here. Grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, be ready to take notes, be ready to implement this life-changing information, because this woman is a product of the product, so to speak, and she has undergone some incredible transformation on her journey. So you definitely want to stay tuned, hear what she's learned, what she's experienced, and what she's here to share and be a stand for you to embody, to live, to receive, so you can be your greatest possible self. Let's introduce her. We'll bring her on the screen. Anuschka Alborzian is a healer, an empowerment health coach, and an inspirational speaker that focuses on balancing the mind, the body, and the spirit. She is no stranger to overcoming challenging obstacles in her life, including having had an avocado-sized brain tumor and undergoing brain surgery to remove it all. Upon hearing a diagnosis and prognosis that would change her life forever, she empowered herself with a new perspective on healing, health, and life. Anuschka healed her mind, body, and spirit, and is now extremely passionate about empowering other people to heal themselves. Anuschka's promise to those that work with her who commit to the work and to themselves is that they will have a true ideal, healthy lifestyle, be forever healed, and live life to the fullest in the face of any circumstance. Anuschka is committed to making a difference one human being at a time through mind, body, spirit, healing with Anuschka. And we are blessed to have Anuschka with us today. Anuschka, are you ready to rock the house, Superwoman? Oh my.
Excited to be here with you, so thank you for having me, Chris.
Absolutely. I love your light. I love your energy. We are going to have so much fun on this interview. Let's dive right into the theme of today, which is the power of words. Anuschka, what does that mean for you? What does the power of words mean for you?
Words are so powerful. That's actually the mind piece that I always speak to. I always believe, the words you use create your reality.
Yeah.
So one of the, it's funny because people will come to me now that chemo is completely done. I finished in December. And so a lot of times people are like, oh, so are you in remission? And I've always had this negative, whatever from me, that word just never had a good vibe to it. It just feels a good energy. So I actually looked it up. And when you go and look at the thesaurus, it says pause, reduction, decrease, all these words. And I'm like, why would I ever use that word? So I'm like, no, I'm cured. I'm healed.
Gone forever.
Yes, it's gone, and I'm like, don't use that word ever.
Right,
It just really, because it's what we say, whether it's through our thoughts or out loud, it doesn't matter. words have a vibration, words have a frequency to them. And so for me, words are so powerful.
Oh
And
my
that's
gosh.
actually one of the big pieces of the mind that I work with. And I'll actually catch my clients if they like say either I'm trying or, whatever it is. And I'm like, nope, okay, let's say it again.
Wow. Wow. I love it. I love it. And it's so powerful because like our healing is determined by if we even believe it's possible. First off, how do we relate to it? What are the words that we're speaking about the healing? Do we see ourselves as someone who's a victor and able to get over this and like a champion through this, or is it bigger than us? And it's like our language creates that reality. And you totally had language, and I'm sure had a process of up leveling and shifting your language and becoming more aware of your language to be able to get through your own experience and your own journey. And I know that you're doing mind, body, and spirit healing today. So let's tell us a little bit about that in the audience, about your work and what you do today. And then we'll go back into the journey and talk about your story and what you overcame. Okay?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I actually just recently evolved my business because I realized that, it really takes all three pieces to be that true, have that true ideal lifestyle.
Yeah.
One of the things that, coming out, and not to say, I love obviously Western medicine. I love Eastern medicine. I love it all. Yeah. I did it all, So for me, I did it and I went based on my intuition, which is the side, right? Yeah. So doctors, Western medicine, their focus is the body piece. But the problem with that is when you only focus on body, well, what about your mind? What about your mindset? What about the spirit piece? What about, like the frequencies and meditation and the things that actually feed our soul and spirit? Right. So what I do is I actually focus on those three different areas because all three need to be balanced in order to really be able to get to that being healed forever. Because otherwise, if that mindset piece is missing and you have like the healthy diet, the healthy lifestyle, eating right and all these things, and you're meditating, but your mindset, like you're thinking that, oh my God, what if it comes back? And that's constantly in the back of your mind.
No chance.
It's gonna come back.
There's no chance. You can't. Yeah. Your healthy habits of eating and what you put in your body, the information there can't beat the source of all like negativity and a story or whatever, a narrative that you're doomed. That can't beat that.
And all three are equally crucial. Yeah. And that's, I think, one of the things that there is not one that's more important than the other.
Amen.
Like somebody that has a really strong mindset and then, for instance, does, spiritual work, but goes and eats crap all the time and pours poison and toxins in, their body. Well, it's not really living that ideal lifestyle, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then again, same with the spirit piece. If you're constantly around negativity and energy and things that are dragging you down, well, what's that going to do to your body? So it all is correlated.
Even, I think today, a lot of people just aren't even connected with their spirit in general, that taking that time for stillness. They're dealing so much in the realm of matter and getting things done, checking off the to-do list, things like that. So I know we're going to talk about strategies of how people can really start to shift their mind, body, and spirit. Before we go there, let's go back into your journey and talk about, how did you get to where we are today, being an amazing leader, coach, speaker. Tell us about your journey, Anuschka.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I really truly believe that everything happens for a reason. Everything's always working out. I have an analogy of a zipper. I actually wrote this pretty long blog about it, that things literally if you allow a zipper, as it's going to the top, you just allow them to align. It actually is beautiful how everything really truly happens for the highest purpose, right? And for me, I had done a ton of personal transformational work, which that's how we met. And that is what had me be super present, super empowered. So when I went in for I had been having massive headaches. Actually, I started having minor headaches for several years until it got to the point, and I kept ignoring them. which is another reason why I'm so open about sharing my stories. I'm like, don't ignore the signs. Our bodies whisper until they get louder and louder, and then they start screaming at us like mine did with the massive headaches and vomiting that all of a sudden from that. So finally I go in to get an MRI, and I really thought it was like, I'm going to go in for this peace of mind and I'm going to go play volleyball afterwards. And next thing you know, this MRI that was supposed to be 15 minutes lasted an hour, and they like put contrast in me, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means, and then they escorted me to the emergency room, and then from the emergency room, like that's where they showed me images of my MRI, which I was like, oh my God, like how am I standing here? And then off to the ICU I go, and next thing you know, like 5 days later, I think I had to reduce the swelling because the brain tumor was so big. It had moved the midline, like it was completely like shifted. And so they had to reduce the swelling before I went through surgery and everything. So anyhow, through that whole journey, I was able to be really present and calm. And I was actually the one that was able to keep all my loved ones calm because of my presence. So it was really interesting. Like, usually it's the other way around. But in my case, like my mom, as soon as she got there and she saw me, she's like, oh my God, I feel so much more peaceful now just like being around you. And I got that same comment from like my dad, my husband. I mean, my husband had, I think it was like really tough on all of them, but they just didn't show it to me. And so from there, that's when I started sharing my journey on social media.
Before we go there, what was it about you and who you were being, or your character, the qualities that you've developed that you can share with the audience, so to speak, that helped you be that calm in the eye of the storm? How did you be that when normally it's the other way around, and the loved ones are the ones who are keeping the person who's going through stuff grounded? How did you do that?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that to me was huge is I just knew that this is just what's going on. This is what's happening. The fact is that this is what's happening.
Yep.
And my reaction is my choice.
Wow.
And so in that moment, I was like, okay, like I can either freak out, but what's that going to do? And so whatever it was, like it just, something inside of me was just like, you know what, everything's going to work out. And I kept, like, I was in a true belief of that. And I don't know if something like within me spiritually, like I felt very like the levels of consciousness, I don't know, okay, so I literally felt like the peace, like I think at times I even felt that enlightenment frequency, whatever what had taken over me. Like I had some my God, like the craziest dreams during those times that I was like, wow, like this was meant to happen. And I was, for whatever reason, I think because of my frequency and, the fact that I'm like, it's my choice how I react. I was only allowing loved ones, like people that have love and high vibes, come to visit me. I'm like, if you don't have love or like positive energy, you are not welcome in my room, because I wanted that room to just full of love and above,
And I want to share this with the audience. Like, you knew the space that you were committed, you were standing for, to maintain. You knew the values that you wanted, you knew the energy you wanted, and you knew the boundaries of how far and how close people could get with whatever energy level that they were at. If they were loving, if they were a good presence, if they were empowering, if they were encouraging, hey, you can be right by my bedside. If you got negativity, hey, I'll pick up the phone, I'll say, don't worry, I'm doing good, but we don't have that much time to talk because I'm going through it. Bye. Like you set those boundaries in place. And I think that's another thing a lot of people don't do, is like be aware of what are the forces and the energies and the people and their personalities. What effect is that having on your life, and how are you managing those relationships and those boundaries? Because if you're not managing that, then whatever is going to come in is whatever is going to come in. And that's typically, if you're not being in charge of that, if you're not leading that effort and being intentional and responsible, then you're going to have stuff come in that you don't want.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that was like very, very important to me, is to, and that goes, I mean, it's interesting because like you said, that goes with any circumstance in life. It doesn't matter if, because I mean, they say the 5 people that you surround yourself with.
Yep.
you know, right? And so it really is about setting those boundaries. And that's something that was a huge learning piece for me, is to really set those boundaries. I've even cut off some family members through this process.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, nope, it just doesn't work for me, you know, and send them off with love, of course.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have my boundaries of I don't want these things to impact me, because self-care.
Yeah, and it can be difficult too, because society's pressure is that you have to keep your family or, you know, friends or like these people who've been with you a long time or by blood or whatever. It's like an obligation to be with them. It's like, no, take care of yourself first. Like if you are not well, then nobody else gets the gifts that you have to bring. And if other people are causing that, then you got to be responsible and you got to take charge. And it might suck at first, it might hurt, you might have to rip the Band-Aid off, so to speak, but like doing it in the long run is the absolute best thing for you. So you got through this time period, Anuschka, because you had great people around you, because you were the calm in the eye of the storm. What did you discover about you know, health specifically that got you through this time period? I want to dive into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to really quickly about that, like I literally had at least 10 people in my ICU room daily for those 5 days.
Wow.
At least minimum 10, just full of love, laughter, and everything. So like, just to really, because that's the collective of it, right? So as for health, so I had already been pretty healthy, you know. I use this amazing nutrition system called Isogenics that I'm obsessed with, and we've talked about it. So thankfully I had been using it before, so it was like an easier transition. So and then I started seeing like a holistic healer, because you know, at this point, like when I got the pathology report, we're like, okay, like this needs to get serious, you know. Which I, you know, I'm happy that happened, like in the moment, of course not, but like I'm happy because that's what had me wake up and say, no, you know what, it's time to take my health to the next level. So I was recommended to go organic vegan, especially during chemotherapy and radiation. And I was the kind of person that like I didn't consider a meal unless it had like meat, cheese, or like eggs in it, you know? And so that was, I cried. I would cry for a couple months, but my life was more important, you know? And so it got to a point where I got used to it. And then thankfully, like the shakes like saved me throughout chemo and everything, because I knew I was getting the nutrition, even the days that I couldn't eat, because there were days that I couldn't eat, you know? Anyhow, but yeah, I stuck to it. And like the more and more I learn about, you know, organic and how much like pesticides and all the different toxins that are out there, and our skin is truly our biggest organ. So whether or not we're putting it in our mouth or makeup or cleaning products or just being in the environment, we have toxins around us, you know? And so for me, that was really important, is to really just not only internally, but I threw out all my makeup. I threw out all the cleaning products. I went like all natural, you know, just to control the things I can control, you know? So that's like really like, and that's like, you know, I mean, maybe for others that aren't going through chemotherapy and all that, maybe it doesn't need to be that extreme, but with chemo being, you know, as toxic as we all know it to be, the last thing I wanted was to add even more of that into my body.
Well, I want to highlight the benefits of being that radical about your approach, right? Because some people can take baby steps and they can, you know, work on one thing at a time, and that there's benefits to that. I want to hear like the pros and cons in your perspective of when someone's just like all in and they make that kind of a life commitment and transformation. What are the benefits? And then, you know, let's talk about the pros and cons of like one step at a time. So wherever you want to start.
So for me, I mean, I went all in, and for me, the pro was that like, that I knew, like I could feel instantly within like, I think a week or two, the difference in me, like with my body. I had been the kind that I always wanted to, like, as long as I remember, I was trying to lose weight, you know? And so it's like what you focus on grows, right? So when you're trying to lose weight, you're focusing on being fat. So it's never going to happen. So one of the pros was having switched my mindset to no longer losing weight, but like healthy living. I lost 30 pounds.
Wow.
Just by going organic vegan and just being very like, you know, and so that to me was a huge pro, because it was effortless, you know, it was just because I was like, my mindset was healthy living, you know? And so that to me, and then it's, yes, at the beginning, I believe it's a little bit more difficult, but when you jump all in like that, then you get to learn about your body more. You get to see, okay, well, these are the things that I want to do. And then you start like looking at like, okay, every once in a while, I'm going to treat myself. And then those rewards are actually really like exciting, you know? So if I like, there's times where I'm like, I do want to have some meat. So and then I'll go have some, like, I'm Persian, so I love Persian food and I love like the lamb. So I always like, that's like my treat meal. And by the way, another word thing, I never use cheat meal. That's something I always like have people like correct, you know, like it's a treat. It's not cheat. Why would you say cheating yourself? But anyhow, so that is like a huge pro to me, is like to be able to really just like, you know, enjoy that. And then I don't know, for me, it worked really well, and it wasn't easy at first. But now it's like, I don't crave meat. I barely crave like sweets anymore because I have the nutrition. And usually when you're craving things is because you are like lacking some kind of nutrition. So for those that are doing one step at a time, it's harder to actually see that. You know, that's one of the cons, because you're like changing one thing at a time, but you're never really fully making that switch. So it's like, well, if I am craving something, what is it? You know, like it's harder to really see what that would be, and it just takes so much longer. So why not jump in on, you know, and jump on it?
Just rip the Band-Aid off, get it done. I love it. So it sounds like you had a lot of support. It sounds like, you know, you really dove all in, and from how it sounds, we haven't heard that many challenges and difficult times, except maybe, you know, with the eating and things like that. Like sometimes it was hard to keep the food down. What other challenges did you go through in your journey, you know, of healing?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely went through challenge. Like that part, probably the eating part was probably not like, that was probably not even like a challenge compared to some of the other stuff. Well, first off, I couldn't take a shower by myself when I, you know, came out, like for like, I don't know, several weeks. I couldn't even bend over. I mean, those were in itself really difficult because, again, it was a huge tumor, right? So that was like tough. And then they had me on seizure meds because of the size of the tumor. And it's funny because I knew intuition wise, I knew that I should not be taking. And by the way, I did THC CBD, which I'm like a huge advocate of, especially with all the research around like it actually does, you know, cause cancer and tumor cells to commit suicide and shrinks. And anyhow, so that in itself, I was like, well, that is also helpful with seizures. So why am I taking seizure meds? And I was on 2 different ones. And oh my God, I went to the emergency room 5 times probably within a couple months after coming out of the surgery, because when I was tapering off steroids, for instance, like I had massive, like, oh my God, I just started breaking out in hives. So we like went to the emergency room at like in the middle of the night. And then they're like, oh, well, let's get you back on steroids. And I mean, it was just a complete mess. And then when I finally got off the steroids, one of the seizure meds I apparently was allergic to. But they couldn't tell because steroids suppresses that. So for 10 days, this is probably the worst of it. For 10 days, I literally wanted to scratch my eyeballs out. It was that bad. I couldn't sleep because it was like from head to toe, like my hands, everything. I had just rashes. And then we did embryo freezing, which that's like a whole nother procedure, and that's not easy, you know. And so that's 6 months. And then of course, right after that, radiation. So it was just like back to back to back to back. And it was definitely the most challenging part of my life. I made it look easy. And when I look back, I'm like, it definitely was not easy. I just kept pushing through because I'm like, what else can I do? You know? So
is there anything that you would do differently now looking back?
I don't think so, honestly. Wow. I feel like I even reviewed, so even like in the middle of it, like I ended up reviewing the Landmark Forum because I was like, oh, who knows? And thank goodness I did, because I realized that I was scared to be scared. With the amount of work that I've done, I'm very aware that our thoughts create our reality. So after hearing the prognosis of, oh, you have 3 to 5 years to live, you know, I'm even as strong-minded as I was, of course that's going to like make me wonder, like, wait, what? You know? And so I was scared to be scared. And I thought if I like was having the thoughts of like, what if, that I was actually killing myself.
Wow.
So once I realized that, I mean, I actually have these workshops that I created for people to release their fears because what you resist persists.
Wow.
So yeah, even that to me was like divine that I even did that to realize that I was being scared. And then I released that even and was able to create this vision of to 90 and beyond. And that's my belief now.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So awesome. So tell us, when did the decision that you wanted to be the coach and the speaker and get your message out about this, when did that happen? What was that decision point?
So I did start, like, as soon as I went in, for whatever reason, I started sharing on social media, and I was asking for high vibes. And so I already knew that, like, that makes a difference. I didn't know to what extent, but then I was like, holy cow, this stuff is real. Yeah. And so as soon as I started sharing my journey, like I was journaling anyway. So I'm like, well, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to journal anyway. So might as well do it publicly. And I started realizing how many people it was impacting. And so I would get messages all the time, how, like, what a difference I made in their life, or like, they went and did something that they never, like, so many people were like, I've been wanting to get an MRI and, for so long, but, I've been scared too, or whatever it is. Like, it was an inspiration for other people to take action. So with that, slowly as like time went by, I actually had an old coworker, like somebody I worked with like 10 plus years ago, I want to say. Wow. He reached out to me, and he was in accomplishment coaching. Yeah. And he mentioned to me, like, and it was already on my mind. I'm like, I really want to do something with this coaching thing, And mind you, I'm like in chemotherapy and all this stuff.
You're hardcore, girl.
Yeah, I was a little, I look back, I'm like, oh, of course I did all that,
Of course. Yeah.
But then I was like, this sounds really interesting. And I actually hired a coach myself. And it made such a huge difference for me going through that, because the thing is that when people are dealing with things like that, as much as people say, oh, I speak to my boyfriend, or I speak to my husband or my mom or whatever, you're still holding things back. Yep. And I know this because I was, and I'm a very expressive person, but I was still holding back like my fears or whatever. So I had that hour to vent. I had that hour to cry. I had that hour to get out all the thoughts that there were. And so then I became super passionate, and especially after the prognosis, because when that was said to me, I was like, watch me. Right? I remember telling the surgeon, I was like, watch me. And my husband the same, we're sitting there, we're like, it's not going to be her. He kept saying, he's like, not her. And, and so that's why I was like, you know what? No, it's not going to be me. And I'm going to make sure other people get that too, that anything is truly possible. And so that it just, like, again, that zipper, it all just worked out. And I signed up for the accomplishment coaching, coach training program, the year-long program, halfway through chemo. So I still had like another 6 months left of chemotherapy. And I mean, I'm so happy I did that. Like, again, I wouldn't take that back because it was perfect. It was all perfect the way it all worked out.
How did your previous career, going through chemo and then going into coaching, how did that all unfold?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I am like a computer science and engineering major, and I was all in the IT world. So I did a lot of, I worked with Qualcomm, so I did, engineering applications. I did support for them and whatnot. And so completely different world, right? Yeah. But when this all happened, I went on leave because for me, especially after the prognosis, I'm like, I'm not going to go to work and be dealing with this. Like, I need that time to heal. And I was actually trying to go back, but then I realized, like, by the time I'm healed, and then I have to, like, work on, like, because you want to work out, you want to eat right, like, all that stuff is very important in between cycles, to continuously build the body. Yep. And I was like, the last thing I want to do is go back to work. So, thankfully, like, I love Qualcomm. They absolutely have a great, they have amazing benefits. And so, I was able to be on leave, but and then like after 15 months of being on leave, they went through like a huge layoff of the IT department. And I was one of those that they lumped me in because, like, I had been on leave for 15 months. And it was so funny because I was dreading it. Like, I never talked about it, but I was dreading going back in January, and I was laid off in November. I was
Wow.
going back to like that cubicle lifestyle. And so, yeah, even that was like amazing. And
Perfect,
thank goodness that I had started up with accomplishment coaching, because had I not, I would have been devastated had I gone, you know. So again,
but you had a vehicle right there ready to go. Wow. Anuschka, this is awesome. So I want to start diving into what you really want people to know, and different exercises and they can start doing with their mind, their body, and their spirit, and what they can start taking action on to really step into their best selves.
Yeah, you know, and I actually created some like 3 different exercises around mind, body, and spirit.
Wow.
So for people that are watching, you know, if they go to healingwithanuschka.com /free, and they just follow the instructions, there'll be 3 videos sent out to them that will be around mind. And one of the mind one is around, you know, again, words are powerful. So I get a little bit deeper with that. I talk about the whole remission thing as well. The body piece, you know, I actually talk about like intuitive eating, and really just like tuning into that. And even with that piece, like one of the other things that I wanted to do another video on actually is like really being mindful when we do eat, because one of the things a lot of people do, as busy as, you know, a lot of people are, is mindless eating, you know. And so really being mindful. And then one of the key things is like when your body size when you're eating. Have you ever noticed that?
No.
So start noticing this going forward. Anytime, like if you're eating and you take a sigh while you're eating, that's your body telling you, because our body has its own intelligence. That's your body telling you, okay, I'm full.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's like something. I haven't created a video on that, so you know, whoever's watching this is getting this special edition here. Yeah, and then the spirit piece is again like, you know, that frequency, like that, you know, meditation of course is huge for that, and yoga and all that stuff. But what are some other ways that people can raise their frequency? And the 3rd video is around that. So I highly recommend, you know, going there and getting those videos, because it actually walks through those different exercises. And that's just like one piece of it, right? There's so much around it.
Is there a particular challenge or area that you see people challenge with more than others, or that you love working with more than others?
You know, I think it really depends on each individual. You know, some people, the mindset, because they've lived a certain way for however long, they just don't believe it's possible that it can be any other way. So that could be challenging for them. Or some people, again, like the body piece, like, you know, I mean, there's people that I've talked to that they're going through like what I went through, and as soon as I say organic vegan, they're like, they like laugh at it, and they just don't even want to go there. And I'm just like, okay. You know, and that's fine. It's their choice, no judgment. And it's like, well, how willing are you to like take on your life? Because it truly is. And that's one of the things I say, like I only work with those that are fully committed to doing the work, and that are fully committed to themselves and having that true ideal healthy lifestyle. Because otherwise it's a waste of their money, it's a waste of their time, it's a, you know, waste of mine. It's like me trying to drag. So you have to be committed, you know. And then spirit, of course, there's people that are skeptical, you know. So when it's those skeptical people, it's like, okay, well, let me actually, you know, give you some examples of like how, and then I have a lot of scientific articles. So, you know, like with people like that, I'm like, look, here's some articles about how the love frequency actually now has been proven to heal DNA. Like there's actual scientific articles out there now with this stuff. So.
It's so rad. So I know that you have a promise that of like when you work with people, you like stand for this promise and this commitment. And I think in the world today, there's either people who like don't really stand behind any promise, and they're kind of just, you know, hey, I'm here to serve, right? Like there's that. And then there's other people who like give guarantees, but it may not have the power and the weight that I see with your promise and how it's labeled and worded and, you know, just who you are. Tell us a little bit more about that and why you made that promise.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a promise. It's not a guarantee, because then I would be saying no matter what, right? To me, it's like more of like my promise is that for those that work with me, that commit, like I was saying, commit to doing the work, commit to themselves, commit to having that true ideal healthy lifestyle, my promise is to be forever healed. And for me, being forever healed is, from anything, from stress, and they'll master that on their own. They'll be able to master healing on their own, because I didn't even get sick one time during chemotherapy, like cold or whatever. And like my husband was sick twice, but I did the work. I sat there and I did all the crazy things. Like I put onions at the bottom of my feet. I had onions all around the house. I can't even tell you the things that I would eat. And I kept like repeating all is well,
Yes.
I took it all on and I didn't get sick. And so for somebody with that low of an immune system to be able to defeat any kind of, and everybody around me at one point or another was sick. Yeah. I swear to you, it was insane. Everyone's like, how are you not getting sick? I'm like, because it has nothing to do with all the things that people are saying. It has to do with so much more. It has to do with mind, body, and spirit. Yeah. And that's what I was focusing on, And so to be able to fully be that, that is what I see as being forever healed.
Wow. I think it's amazing what you're sharing, and this promise, and like the vision of people being forever healed, right? And we also know that a lot of people can get in their own way from experiencing that, from being able to really receive the value of that promise, because you will deliver. It's up to people whether they're willing to show up and like follow through and things like that. And of course, you're there to support them and be with their walk with them, take their hand as much as they're willing to walk. You're willing to walk. When they want to run, you're ready to run, right?
Yeah, I'm not dragging anyone. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
I've done that before, and I'm like, nope. You got to be willing, because I don't have the energy to drag you along. Because that's your place. That's not my place. That's your world. That's, I'm here to guide, and I'm here to give you all the tools and distinctions and exercises and everything that I have learned. Right. And that doesn't mean that I'm doing it all. If like, for instance, somebody's like dealing with something that I'm like, I have no idea. I'm like, okay, you need to go find a naturopath. Right. Go figure out what's going on. You need to go do this, because that too is very important. I can't tell you how many number of alternative and holistic approaches that I did on top of, the Western side. Wow. I did so many different Eastern and alternative treatments as well, and I still continue to do that, because to me, that's being forever healed. It's just like transformation is never ending. Neither is health. It's a lifetime commitment,
Yeah. So I want to talk to the person out there who might be a little bit skeptical about themselves and their ability to follow through on doing this. Maybe they let themselves down in the past. They have fallen short. They haven't known themselves as someone who gives it all and transforms it all. What's their next step? What can they do to like break through that, or get through that, or get the support to be healed and have their mind, body, and spirit in total alignment?
Well, the first step for me with any of that is always forgiving yourself. Because, a lot of times we hold on to these things. We have guilt, we have shame around how we were when we were younger or a certain age. I know I did. I had to go through, a completion process with myself, forgive myself, and for the choices that I made. And it's like expecting a kindergartner to know how to do algebra or calculus. Can you? No. So
most likely not.
Right. So yeah, most likely not. I mean, maybe there's like one genius out there, Right. But overall, it's like you can't expect your younger self, your older self, like in the past self, to have known the things you know today. And that's one of the things that I had to work on because of, the things I dealt with, the horrible relationships I had. And I had to forgive myself, and really just have completion around that. And so that's what I would say is the first step, is really just getting clear that it's okay. And I would never take any of that away, because I would not be who I am today had it not been for every one of those horrible experiences in my life.
Amen. Amen.
You know?
Yeah, it's like
So,
it's contrast. It really does serve as contrast. It's an
mhm.
indicator of that's not the relationship I want. That's not how I want to talk to and treat myself. That's not how I want to eat and fuel my body. That's not how I want to invest my time and my energy. It's like all these ways that we can see, oh, maybe that wasn't quite the who I am and what my heart and my soul and my mind really align with, and it's contrast, and we're blessed to be grateful for that contrast, because if we condemn it or judge it or have shame or guilt, if we're carrying that, then it's going to keep attracting those situations and circumstances into our life.
Yeah, contrast to me is actually, I believe it's like a gift.
Yeah.
Because when you have that, when you know what you don't want, because we're human, we dwell on what we don't want more than we do on what we want, right?
Right.
But that's great, because as soon as you are aware of what you don't want,
Yes.
What's on the other side of it?
What you do.
That's, again, one of the things that I always talk about is I'm like, okay, cool, I know what you don't want. What do you want now?
Yeah.
Because it really is like, that is such a perfect way to be like, well, I'm clear on that. Okay, well, now let's create. What is it that you truly desire then?
Yeah. Have you found people who, when they're sharing what they want with you, they actually give you a whole story of what they don't want?
Yeah. And that's when I stop them. I'm like, I'm hearing don't again, in the middle of it, I will pause them, because I'm like, okay, I hear don't again. Okay, how would you change that sentence around? And it's interesting because it's become such a habit. I don't know if it was like through society, from like when we were kids. I have no idea where it's come, or maybe it is like just the human nature to do that. But it's interesting because like majority of the people, that's how they talk. They're very clear on what they don't want.
Yeah. And it's like shifting gears almost, it's like what you don't want, that's like first gear in a car. It's like to get to what you do want and to really have your dreams, like, a life by design, a created life, your best life ever, whatever we want to call it. Like that takes being clear on where you want to go and being relentless with the focus of that. And you had that clarity of where you were going with healing through the cancer and like releasing that, being healed forever. Like you had the clarity of where you wanted to go. And you also mentioned like, even you, who's so freaking powerful with your language, your mind, like you still had that fear of being afraid, and it's like, it really takes having an outside perspective, a coach, someone who's able to be there and see like, what is the thought process that's going on? And it's like, it's custom, it's unique for every person and their experiences,
Absolutely. And speaking to that, like the fear, the first thing, like the whole contrast, it is having the awareness around it, right? So it's like, yeah, I'm aware that I don't want this. I'm aware that this is a fear, and then just venting about it, And so that's one of the biggest things. I'm always like, it's okay. Like I said, in my workshop, I always have people vent about it, because you want to get it all out. Because when we're not pouring it out, where are we putting it? Yeah. And then everything, every disease, everything that we deal with, it's all subconscious thoughts, all that stuff. And then it starts to show in our body.
Yeah.
And so therefore it's like, you got to release it. And that's why I believe every single person should have some kind of like a coach or mentor or somebody that they have, counselor, whatever works for people, to really just work with on a regular basis, to be able to like get clarity on some of these things,
Yeah. Anuschka, how do you know, let's say in your process or seminars, when someone is just continuing to repeat a story, so to speak, repeat a perspective and like be locked into that, or if they're actually releasing it in a healthy way, like getting it out, venting? How do you know the difference between those two?
So for me, I'm very intuitive. So that's so that's kind of like more of like my, I guess, superpower.
Yeah.
But I can sense it if it's a vent or a complaint. But for others, it's pretty simple, because I feel like people vent, if something I vent, if I'm frustrated about something, I'm like, oh my God, like, get it out. It's actually good. I actually have practices for people to release their anger and release their sadness on a regular basis, like to actually put in those practices, So anyhow, but like, yeah, this is my short-term memory thing. Hold on. Ever since chemo, I deal with this short-term memory where I forget like train of thought that I was on.
So you're talking about, how do you know the difference? You have the intuition.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. And this, what's funny? This used to be the biggest fear of mine because I have the I'm stupid story because of like whatever. And I discovered all that. But now I'm like, whatever, dude. It happens. Like,
Yep. Real quick, something else that's great about like being a speaker and doing interviews and stuff is like you just get to this point, you're like, however I show up, it's perfect. You just learn to go with the flow.
It's so much easier and effortless, and you can like laugh about it and have other people laugh with you. I've actually had it happen on my very first talk where I was like, what was I saying? I was like, yes. Broke through the biggest fear, Yes. Anyhow, so back to what I was saying. So you can tell when people are saying the same thing over and over again. Yeah. That's when it becomes like more of a complaining rather than venting, And then sometimes it's the same pattern where it's different scenarios, but it's the same pattern. So then that becomes more of like, well, what's their actual mindset? What's their context as we know it? And I don't want to get into jargon talk, but it's really more of like a view or perspective that they have that continues to create that same pattern with other people. And so there's like, I think 3 different levels of it, right? So it's like you vent one time, it's released, you actually feel lighter. Or it's like they're complaining about the same thing over and over again, the same, incident. So it's like, okay, let's get to like completion. Like, what can we do? And so there's different completion exercises out there that, that I've actually learned through accomplishment coaching, which are amazing. And then, like I said, the last piece is, well, this is a view that you have. So let's work on shifting that because otherwise you're going to keep attracting the same pattern.
I love it. What brings you the greatest joy in terms of your clients and working with your clients? What brings you joy?
Oh my gosh, the greatest joy is when I receive a text message or a message, or usually it's text or message. I've yet to get a call to really get like what, the impact that I've made in their life. And every time, even thinking about it, I get really emotional because I know how much like impact that I've had in somebody else's life, and that like I was meant to go through what I went through and all the challenges I went through to be able to be that for other people, for them to have their breakthroughs and for them to really like live life to the fullest in the face of any circumstance, because it truly is possible. Because like anything is possible if you put your mind, body, and spirit in balance.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's like you get to stand from this place of knowing like it wasn't all for nothing. It's like I went through it to be able to share it with people. And now you're speaking all over the place, you're doing all these interviews and like sharing your message, and I love it. I love seeing you share this message and just educate people that there's another way. They don't have to be boxed, be limited, and have one of these 3 things getting in their way from being healed forever. And like you deserve to be rewarded because like, hey, you're here providing this space. You're contributing your time, your energy, your expertise. Like, think about all the things that you did that worked. Awesome. Great. Think about all the things you did that didn't quite work so well. Right?
That's what I tell people. I'm like, I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to determine what worked and what didn't, and now I'm providing that at like a fraction of the price for people. I'm only bringing that which worked for me.
Yeah. And I also love that you're seeing people as like big human beings, big, powerful, capable, resourceful human beings who can like overcome anything and create that life of their dreams, no matter what obstacle or thing or challenge or gift is in the way.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny because I used to always I had it in me. I always wanted to help people. And I realized like through this process, I'm like, no, I'm no longer helping people, because to me helping means they're not empowered themselves and they're like less than or whatever that may be. And so for me, I love the word empowering people.
Yes.
We all have power within us. Whether or not you believe it, you have the power within you. Like, that's just what I truly, truly believe. And it's just a matter of unleashing that power.
So good. So good. So tell us a little bit more about what people can be excited for coming from you in the future, in the next couple of months or years. What's the movements, the stages you're going to be on, declaring it right here on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Tell us more about what you're creating, Anuschka.
So right now I'm actually in major creation mode for my very first event, like that I'm throwing on myself. It is in Colorado. So if anybody out there is watching in Colorado, September 7th, you're more than welcome to come. And so that to me, it's like a mind, body, spirit mini retreat, like a mind, body, spirit healing mini retreat. So I'm super excited about that. And after that, I'm launching a 6-month program around mind, body, and spirit, where we would be focusing on, and it's going to be like a limited space of 10 people. So that's like the thing. The first 10 people that come in, cool. Otherwise, you'll have to wait until the next one. But really, like what I want to focus on is doing like 1 month of mind, 1 month of body, 1 month of spirit, and then coming back to level 2 mind, level 2 body, level 2 spirit. So that's like I'm super excited for that. So I'm in creation mode for that. And of course, for those people that do want to work with me, I actually I do offer them a discounted rate if they sign up with me within 24 hours of any of my talks. So like this one right here, and they mention the show, then they get like a discounted rate for the 6 months. Cause I do offer 6-month, 9-month and 12-month packages. So that's something else. But future-wise, I see myself on stage. I feel like that's where I feel at home on stage, and I feel like I can impact the most amount of people by being on stage. Or doing different talks like this, like where I can get my story out, where I can share, what it's like. I even had like a talk last week at a lunch and learn, and even if it's 5 people, 10 people. The more and more people become aware of how important it is to have all 3 balanced, like I've done my job for the day,
Yeah, plus like you everyone starts somewhere, like everyone starts somewhere, and it's like Oprah didn't get to reaching billions of people through just one day snapping her fingers. No, she had to work her butt off, and like really step into the global force that is Oprah. And I see you, Anuschka, as the global force that is Anuschka, and bringing all this light and love and healing to people and awareness. And I see lots of great stages having you as the keynote, as the featured person who brings the power, brings the self-empowerment, and really gives that to the audience. So I totally see it. It's awesome. So let's tell people how they can stay connected with you, what their next steps are, how they can, have a conversation with you and see if coaching's right for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, for the exercises, that healingwithanuschka.com/free, and that actually, that allows me to also send the videos, and they can send me I have like a contact link on there to let me know how that goes. Because my whole thing with that is do this for a week and see how it goes. Otherwise, if people are like yearning to work with me right now, then they can definitely, either send me like a text. They can call me, of course, but sometimes like a lot of times, how we're busy with clients and different things. So, so my phone number is 720. I still have a Colorado number. From there. So 720-338-1531.
Awesome.
Otherwise, I'm all over social media. It's Healing with Anuschka. You'll find me. And then that's my website too, healingwithanuschka.com. So.
I love it. So everyone go to healingwithanuschka.com/free. Go get those exercises, go get the videos, and truly start to get your mind, body, and spirit into a whole another level of alignment. And contact Anuschka. Let her know what your biggest takeaway was from this episode. If you want to screenshot it, tag me on Instagram at IamMillionaireChris. Put it on your stories, put it on Facebook. Just tag me, and I'll make sure Anuschka gets that and gets that feedback. This is awesome, super, super powerful. And Anuschka, we're going to wrap up with the final takeaways, like 60 seconds of your love, of empowerment, of what our audience needs to hear. Someone out there is ready to hear this message. What do you have to say?
So my message to everyone is, you all are absolutely amazing human beings. Everybody out there has power within them, love within them. Anytime there is any kind of judgment, whether it's for yourself or if it's for others, just know love is missing. That's it. Because when there is love present, that's all we need. There's no room for anything else, because love truly does overpower fear. It overpowers everything else. And, surround yourself with those that love you, those that support you, and around those that you love, because really that right there, that energetic frequency that we have around each other, we're all connected. So we really do. It becomes contagious. It's impossible to go around somebody that has like this loving, bubbly personality and not all of a sudden feel energized, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So just do that for yourself. Go out there, go to different, programs, seminars, whatever it is, to continuously raise your vibration. Because I really do believe the more we raise our consciousness, higher consciousness, and as does the planet. So.
And that's what we're here for. Raise the vibe. And I firmly believe leave this planet better than when we found it. And Anuschka, you're bringing so much light and love to the planet. So I appreciate you. Thank you for being here and just like this powerful, powerful force of light and love that you are. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. This has been absolutely awesome. So yeah.
I'm excited to see you on bigger and bigger stages, impacting the world, Anuschka. Have the best day ever, okay? I'll see you soon.
Thanks, you too. Bye.